Okay, students. So today we are going to start with AS level physics, May June 2025, paper 2, variant 2, 1 hour 15 minutes ka paper. So today we are starting May June 2025, paper 2, variant 2. Let's start. First of all, we have some data points as shown here and then a blank page, obviously. Let's move on to our first question. Let's zoom in a bit. Let's move on to our first question. Okay. Table 1.1 shows some physical quantities. Identify with a tick which quantities are vectors and which quantities are scalar. Okay, which quantities are vector? Acceleration is a vector. Displacement is also a vector. Gravitational potential energy is a scalar, speed is a scalar, and temperature is also a scalar quantity. Okay, let's further move ahead. A constant resultant force F acts on a car of mass m. Okay, the car moves from rest. Okay, so the initial speed of the car is 0 with constant acceleration a. Okay, along horizontal ground. Okay, when the car is displacement s, the speed of the car is v. Use the concept of work done on the car to show that the kinetic energy of the car is given by this equation. Okay, so let's make a car. Let's say this is your car with an initial velocity of 0. And let's say we are applying a force F on this car, which causes the car to accelerate with an acceleration of A. This car covers a distance of what? This car covers a distance of S, like this. This car covers a distance of S and reaches a speed of V. First of all, beta, if I want to calculate the work done, how will I do that? Work done is equals to force F into the distance S. फोर्स F को मैं किससे रिप्लेस कर दूंगा? मास इनटू एक्सेलरेशन इनटू S is equals to your work done. Now, beta, just focus a bit more. Let's say this is our first equation. Okay, let's say this is our equation number 1. Okay. Now let's apply some equation of kinematics. You can say v square is equals to u square plus 2as. This initial velocity of u becomes 0. Final velocity is v divided by 2s is equals to your acceleration. V square is divided by 2s is equals to acceleration. Sir, how did you got this conclusion? Dekho. Initial speed is 0. On the left hand side, we will have v square only. This has 2as. Divide 2s to the downside. V square divided by 2s is equals to acceleration. This is your second equation. What will you do next? You will substitute this equation of acceleration v square divided by 2s here. आप acceleration की equation को यहाँ पे substitute कर दो. Okay. Work done is equals to mass into v square divided by 2s into s. S is cancelled out. Work done is equals to 1 upon 2 mv square. That is equals to kinetic energy. We have proven the formula of kinetic energy. If you have any confusions, you can ask. This was our step number 1, step number 2, and this is our step number 3. Okay, let's further move ahead. The mass of the car is 920 kg. At time t is equals to 0, the car is at rest. Okay. At time t is equals to 0, the speed is 0. At time t is equals to 5.8 seconds, its velocity is 17. Calculate the kinetic energy of the car at a time of t is equals to 5.8 seconds. How can you calculate the kinetic energy of the car? 1 upon 2 mv square. 1 upon 2 into the mass, that is 920, into the velocity square, that is 17 square. What does this answer comes out to be? Let's calculate it. 0.5 into 920 into 17 square. This comes out to be 1.3 into 10 raised to the power of 5 joules. This is your kinetic energy. If you don't want to write it in a standard form, that's also perfectly fine. It doesn't matter. Let's further move ahead. At time t, between time t is equals to 0 and time t is equals to 5.8 seconds, the work done against the resistive forces is this. बेटा resistive forces के against हम इतना work done कर रहे हैं. Calculate the average power output of the car during this time. Okay, you have to calculate the power output of the car during this time. Power output is equals to energy output divided by time. In this scenario, you have two types of energies. First of all, you have work done against resistive forces. Second of all, you have gain in kinetic energy. Let's write both of them as our energy outputs. 1.3 into 10 raised to the power of 5 is your kinetic energy, plus the work done against air resistance is also counted as your output energy divided by the time. What does your output power comes out to be? बेटा आउटपुट पावर निकालो कैलकुलेटर में डाल के. This comes out to be 3.1 into 10 raised to the power of 4 volts. Simple. At time t is equals to 5.8 seconds, the speed of the car becomes constant. ठीक है, speed of car क्या हो गई? Constant हो गई. State and explain whether the power output of the car is greater than, less than, or the same as the output power just before t is equals to 5.8 seconds. When the speed of the car becomes constant, जब speed of the car constant हो जाएगी, what does this mean? Kinetic energy becomes constant. Hence, their change in kinetic energy. अगर kinetic energy constant हो रही है, change in kinetic energy will become zero. This thing will turn out to be zero. बेटा अगर आपकी स्पीड कांस्टेंट हो रही है, काइनेटिक एनर्जी विल बिकम कांस्टेंट. If the kinetic energy becomes constant or kinetic energy does not change, if there is no change in kinetic energy, your energy output decreases, your overall energy output will decrease. Hence, your power output will decrease. You can say, since, or you can say, as the speed gets constant, as speed gets, or as the speed becomes constant, kinetic energy also becomes constant. And hence, there is no change in kinetic energy. The power or the energy output decreases, hence, output power decreases. Simple, nothing complicated here. Let's further move ahead. Let's see this question. Define the moment of a force about a point. What will you say? Moment is the, or moment of a force is the product, is the product of force and the perpendicular distance between force and pivot. Force and pivot. Perfect. Let's further move ahead. A tree of mass 270 kg. Okay, you have a tree of mass 270 kg that grows out of a sloping ground and is supported by a post as shown in figure 2.1. ठीक है जी, एक tree है that is supported from the ground. It has a mass of 270 kg. Perfect. It grows out of the ground. Okay. The ground applies a total force of R on the tree at point Q. Okay. The center of gravity of the tree is at a horizontal distance of 1.2 meters from Q. अच्छा जी, ये आप देख सकते हो. This is the point Q. This is what? Point Q. So the center of gravity of the tree is at a horizontal distance of 1.2 meters from Q. Okay, so the center of gravity, this thing, is 1.2 meters from Q. Okay. The post applies a force of 1 1800 Newton perpendicular to the line PQ. Okay, so this is the force 1800 Newton. This is making a 90-degree line or perpendicular to line PQ. The line of action of force passes through point P at an angle of theta to the vertical. P is a horizontal distance of 1.6 meter from Q. Okay, P is a horizontal distance of 1.6 meter from Q. The tree is in equilibrium. What does equilibrium means? Equilibrium means anti-clockwise moment is equals to clockwise moment, and secondly, the resultant force will be equal to 0. By taking moments about Q, show that theta is 25 degree. Okay. If we take moments about Q, about this point, what are the two forces that will be acting? First of all, we will have this weight of the tree. ट्री का मास क्या है 270. ट्री का वेट क्या आ जाएगा 270 into 9.81. What does this come out to be? 270 into 9.81. This comes out to be 2650. The weight of tree comes out to be 2650 Newton. Can you realize that this weight will be causing which type of a moment? Clockwise moment. 2650 multiplied by the perpendicular distance of 1.2. Can you calculate the clockwise moment? Yes. Clockwise moment is equals to force into distance. Force is equals to 2650 multiplied by the distance, that is 1.2. What does your clockwise moment comes out to be? My clockwise moment comes out to be 3180 Newton meter. बेटा अब एंटी क्लॉकवाइज मोमेंट किस तरह निकालेंगे? There is only one force which is causing an anti-clockwise movement, that is 1800 Newton. This is causing an anti-clockwise movement like this. How to calculate this anti-clockwise movement? This is a force of 1800 multiplied by the perpendicular distance from the pivot. Beta, perpendicular distance from the pivot क्या है of this 1800 Newton force? This D. 1800 into D is your perpendicular distance of the और या एंटी क्लॉकवाइज मोमेंट. ठीक है 1800 की आपने फोर्स ले ली. द perpendicular distance from the pivot is D. Now you have to calculate D. Before calculating D, I want to brief you on something. Angles on an incline. This is something that I want you guys to remember. Please, please, please. This is a very commonly tested topic. बहुत ज़्यादा बहुत frequently ये topic test किया जाता है. Let's say this is the x-axis. Let's say this is a slope. Let's label this as x prime. The angle between x and x prime is, let's say, theta. Okay. Now let's draw. Please focus on my wording very, very carefully. Let's draw a line that is perpendicular to x prime. हमने क्या किया बेटा? We have drawn a line that is perpendicular to x prime like this. Sir, इसका मतलब क्या है? This basically means that this line is making a 90-degree angle with x prime. This is known as your y prime. First of all, हमने क्या देखा? एक लाइन है x और यू कैन से x एक्सिस. x एक्सिस के साथ x प्राइम ने थीटा डिग्री का एंगल बनाया हुआ है. Then I have created a 90-degree line or a perpendicular line on x prime. This is known as y prime. Now let's create the y-axis. Let's create the y-axis, the vertical axis, exact vertical axis. Let's take it here. Okay. Now there is a very simple rule. एक simple rule याद करने के लिए कह रहा हूँ. If the angle between x and x prime is theta, if this angle is theta, then the corresponding angle between y and y prime will also be theta. This angle will also turn out to be theta. अगर x और x प्राइम के बीच में एंगल थीटा है, y और y प्राइम के बीच में भी एंगल थीटा होगा. प्लीज रिमेंबर दिस इज द जर्नल rule for angles on incline. Now, let me zoom in a bit. Let me show you one simple thing here. You have to calculate this distance d. Okay, I am erasing the weight and clockwise की calculation because I need some space here. ठीक है, मैं clockwise movements की calculation और weight को erase कर रहा हूँ because I need some space here. You have to calculate this d. How will we do that? Let's create a triangle. Let's say this is 90 degree and yeah, let's say this is your triangle. Probably like this. Yeah, let's say this is your triangle at 90 degree. Perfect. Now, please focus on the board. This is what? This is your y-axis. This is what? This is your y prime. The angle between y and y prime is theta. This line, this horizontal line is your x-axis. This slanted line is your x prime. The angle between x prime and x will also be theta. This will be theta degrees. Simple. बेटा ये वाली जो लाइन है, ये जो मैं अभी हाईलाइट कर रहा हूँ, लेट मी डू इट विद अ डिफरेंट कलर. चलो, लेट्स डू इट विद अ डिफरेंट. ये ग्रीन वाली जो लाइन है, दिस विल बी एक्स प्राइम. ठीक है, हॉरिजॉन्टल एक्स. The angle between x and x prime will also be theta because the angle between y and y prime is already theta. Okay, so let's make this triangle towards the left hand side. This is d, this is theta, and this is 90 degree. You have to somehow find d. बेटा you also know this length. ये लेंथ भी आपको पता है, ये जो अभी मैं ग्रीन में हाईलाइट कर रहा हूँ. You also know this length. This is 1.6 meters. Okay, write it here. Can you calculate d? Yes sir. How? You have to basically calculate the hypotenuse. You are given the base. कौन सा रेशो लग जाएगा? Cosine. Cosine theta is equals to base over hypotenuse. Hypotenuse क्या है? D. Base क्या है? 1.6. D comes out to be 1.6 divided by cosine theta. Now just substitute this D here. अब हमने क्या करना है? D को यहाँ पे substitute कर लेना है. Let's do it to get the anti-clockwise moment. Anti-clockwise moment is equals to 1800 into what is the value of D? 1.6 divided by cosine theta. This is your anti-clockwise moment. This is your anti-clockwise moment. This is your clockwise moment. Let's equate both of them. Your anti-clockwise moment is equals to 1800 into 1.6 divided by cosine theta. Okay. Now you will equate the clockwise moment to the anti-clockwise moment. Clockwise is equals to anti-clockwise. Clockwise क्या है? 3180. Anti-clockwise क्या है? 1800 into 1.6 divided by cosine theta. Cosine theta is equals to what? And cosine theta is equals to what? 1800 into 1.6 divided by 3180. Cosine inverse answer, the angle comes out to be. Okay, so let me do the working once more as well for those who are weak at mathematics. 1800 into 1.6, bring 3180 to the other side. Take cosine inverse. Cosine inverse of 1800 into 1.6 divided by 3180. Theta comes out to be 25 degrees. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. आगे देखते हैं. On figure 2.2, draw a labeled scale vector triangle to represent the forces acting on the tree. The weight of the tree has been drawn to scale. First of all, sir, what is a vector triangle? देखो, please realize this thing. In a vector triangle, the head of one vector is connected to the tail of the other vector. The head of the second vector is connected to the tail of the third vector. बेटा क्या आप रियलाइज कर रहे हो, हेड टेल हेड टेल हेड टेल, head to tail is connected throughout in a vector triangle. Beta, please, 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 for the love of God, do not mix it with resultant vector वाला triangle. Resultant vector वाला triangle किस तरह का होता था? हाँ जी, एक इस तरह का, head, tail, and then you had head, tail. रिजल्टेंट वेक्टर वाले ट्रायंगल में आपका एक वेक्टर टेल से हेड इस तरह हुआ करता था, दिस यूज्ड टू बी रिजल्टेंट। यहाँ पे इस तरह नहीं होता। इन अ वेक्टर ट्रायंगल योर हेड इज कनेक्टेड टू द टेल, हेड इज कनेक्टेड टू द टेल, हेड इज कनेक्टेड टू द टेल। वेक्टर ट्रायंगल में हेड टेल हेड टेल हेड टेल आपस में कनेक्टेड है। रिजल्टेंट वेक्टर्स में क्या होता था, दो वेक्टर्स के हेड टेल आपस में कनेक्टेड होते थे, एंड यू ड्रॉ योर रिजल्टेंट वेक्टर। So first of all, you will have to realize that you will have to create a triangle जिसमें head tail head tail connected है, not the resultant vector वाला triangle. Okay, so let's keep it here. ठीक है, अच्छा अब क्या करेंगे? Now one more thing that you will do is you will measure the length of this weight using a ruler. आपने इस वेट की लेंथ मेजर करनी है यूजिंग अ रूलर। द लास्ट टाइम आई मेजर्ड इट, इट वाज कमिंग आउट टू बी 12.4 सेंटीमीटर्स। वेट की एक्चुअल वैल्यू क्या थी? 2650। ओके, लेट्स जूम इन। ओके, सो बेसिकली 2650 represents 12.4 सेंटीमीटर। 1 सेंटीमीटर कितने न्यूटन्स के इक्वल होगा? एक्स। x comes out to be what? 2650 divided by 12.4. What does x comes out to be? Let's calculate. 2650 divided by 12.4. This comes out to be 214. x किसके इक्वल आ गया? 214 न्यूटन के इक्वल आ गया x. Okay. Now, furthermore, realize this fact कि आपकी फोर्स F कितनी थी? 1800 न्यूटन. So for 1800 Newton, how many centimeters will you draw? If 214 is equals to 1 centimeter, 1800 के लिए कितने सेंटीमीटर ड्रॉ करोगे? X, can you calculate the value of X? 1800 divided by answer. This comes out to be 8.4 centimeter. This comes out to be 8.4 centimeter. Now what will you do? You will draw a line of 8.4 centimeters like this. Okay. दिस इज योर फोर्स एफ। बेटा फोर्स एफ और वर्टिकल के बीच का एंगल क्या था? व्हाट वाज द एंगल बिटवीन फोर्स एफ एंड द वर्टिकल? थीटा, दैट इज 25 डिग्रीज। फाइनली you will close this vector triangle with the last force. What is this last force? क्या इसके बारे में लिखा हुआ है कहीं? Yes, this last force is force R. Okay, this is your force R. Let's erase this. Let's put 12.4 centimeter here. Can you realize the head of one vector is connected to the tail of the other vector? The head of one vector is connected to the tail, head is connected to the tail, head is connected to the tail. This is what we mean by vector triangle. वेक्टर ट्रायंगल में हमेशा हेड टेल से हेड टेल से हेड टेल से कनेक्टेड होती है, रिजल्टेंट वेक्टर वाला सिनेरियो नहीं होता. ओके, लेट्स फर्दर मूव अहेड नाउ. Okay. The tree exerts a pressure of 150 kilopascals on the top of the post. Okay. Determine the surface area of the tree in contact with the post. अच्छा जी, हमने determine करना है surface area. How will we do that? Pressure is equals to force over area. क्या आपके पास force है at the top? Yes sir. 1800. Top of the post पे कितनी force लग रही है? 1800. Okay, you have the pressure as well. Area किसके equal आ जाएगा? 1800 divided by the pressure, that is 150 kilopascals. 150 into 10 is the power of 3. Area comes out to be what? क्या कोई area निकाल सकता है? Area comes out to be 0.012 मीटर स्क्वायर. सिंपल. लेट्स further move ahead. आगे बढ़ते हैं. और two progressive water waves x and y travel along a straight line from point A to point B. The variation of the displacement of the wave with distances from A at an instance in time is shown in figure 3.1. अच्छा जी, displacement versus distance graph given है. Okay. State the amplitude of wave x. आपने wave x का amplitude state करना है. What is amplitude? Amplitude is the maximum displacement from the mean position. The amplitude comes out to be 10 here. Okay. Both waves have the frequency of 16 hertz. Determine the speed of wave x. Speed is equals to f lambda. बेटा वेव x कौन सी वेव है? ये वाली. Can you calculate the wavelength of wave x? Yes. What is the distance covered to complete one wave? 0.4. This is your wavelength. Okay. Your wavelength is 0.4. Frequency is 16. What does your velocity comes out to be? 16 into 0.4. This comes out to be 6.4. 6.4 meters per second. Okay. State and explain whether x and y are coherent. कोहेरेंट का मतलब क्या होता है? मेंटेनिंग अ कांस्टेंट फेज डिफरेंस. कोहेरेंट का मतलब क्या होता है? मेंटेनिंग अ कांस्टेंट फेज डिफरेंस. नाउ दिस इज ट्रू. क्यों? इन द स्टार्टिंग वेव एक्स हैज अ क्रेस्ट, वेव वाई हैज अ टिल्ट. इन द एंडिंग एज वेल, वेव एक्स का क्रेस्ट इज कोरिस्पॉन्डिंग टू द टिल्ट ऑफ वाई. बेटा क्या आप रियलाइज कर रहे हो कि स्टार्टिंग ऑफ द वेव में भी वेव एक्स का क्रेस्ट इज कोरस्पॉन्डिंग टू द टर्फ ऑफ वेव वाई. एट द एंड जब वेव खत्म हो रही है तब भी ऐसा ही हो रहा है. क्रेस्ट ऑफ वेव एक्स इज कोरस्पॉन्डिंग टू द टर्फ ऑफ वेव वाई. वेव एक्स एंड वाई आर मेंटेनिंग a constant phase difference of 180 degree, hence they are coherent. You can say wave x and y are maintaining a constant phase difference of 180 degrees. Simple, nothing complicated here. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Wave x and y superpose, that is wave x and y meet, or you can say overlap, to form a resultant wave. On figure 3.2, sketch the variation of displacement of the resultant wave with distance from point A at the instant of time shown in figure 3.1. ठीक है. हमने displacement versus distance graph बनाना है. Okay. So at time t is equals to 0, can you realize? At time t is equals to 0, the amplitude of x is 0, the amplitude of y is 0, the resultant amplitude will be equal to 0. Let's mark that point. At time t is equals to 0, the resultant amplitude is 0. Perfect. Now, at time t is equals to 0.1, at time t is equals to 0.1 seconds, what is happening? The amplitude of x is 10, the amplitude of y is negative 20. What is the resultant amplitude? 10 minus 20, that is equals to negative 10. 0.1 पे क्या है amplitude? Negative 10. At 0.2, it will again become 0. Let's look at 0.3. ये 0.3 पे क्या हो रहा है सर? When the time is equals to 0.3 seconds, amplitude of x is equals to negative 10. Amplitude of y is equals to positive 20. The resultant amplitude is equals to positive 10. Okay. At 0.3, you have a positive amplitude of 10. Then you have 0 here. Let's keep on continuing this. Negative 10, 0, 10, 0, negative 10. Here you have. Let's combine the dots like this. This is your wave. Yeah, this is how your wave will look like. Simple. Okay, let's further move ahead. आगे बढ़ते क्या लिखा हुआ है? The intensity of wave x is Ix. The intensity of wave y is Iy. Determine the ratio of Ix over Iy. बेटा इंटेंसिटी का क्या फॉर्मूला होता है? के एम्पलीट्यूड स्क्वायर. What will be Ix? Ix is equals to K into the amplitude of X. What was the amplitude of X? 10 ka square divided by Iy. K into what is the amplitude of Y? 20 ka square. K cancel out. 100 divided by 400, that is equals to 0.25 as your ratio. Simple. Let's further move ahead. A small ball is dropped from rest. Okay, so you are dropping a small a ball from rest at a height of h is equals to 1. ठीक है भाई. आप एक बॉल को रेस्ट से ड्रॉप कर रहे हो, दैट इज फ्रॉम अ वेलोसिटी ऑफ u इज इक्वल टू 0 एट अ हाइट ऑफ h1 above the ground. Fall vertically downwards. The ball collides with the ground and bounces back vertically upwards, reaching a maximum height of h2. फिगर 4.1 shows the ball just before and after hitting the ground. ठीक है, ये बॉल है before and after hitting the ground. The mass of the ball is 0.25 kg. Okay. The ball has a mass of this, and let's highlight these things. The ball has a mass of this and is in contact with the ground for a time of this. The ball hits the ground with a speed of 5.2 and just leaves the ground with a speed of this. Air resistance is negligible. Whenever air resistance is negligible, your acceleration will turn out to be 9.81 ms minus 2. State and explain whether the collision is elastic or inelastic. You have to state and explain whether the collision is elastic or inelastic. How will you do that? And you have to explain how the collision, or you have to explain whether the collision is elastic or inelastic. So what will you say? If you realize, अगर आप थोड़ा सा देखो, the velocity or the speed before collision is different to the velocity or the speed after collision. This is the velocity before collision. This is the velocity after collision. Both of them are unequal. Hence, kinetic energy before and after collision will be unequal. Hence, the collision is inelastic. You can write here. You can say the kinetic energy of the ball before and after collision, before and after collision are not equal. Hence the collision is inelastic. Okay. Calculate the change in momentum of the ball during the collision with the ground. Now, to calculate the change in momentum, I will write a golden rule here that you need to remember. बेटा जब भी आपके सवाल में वेक्टर क्वांटिटीज होंगी, whenever you have vector quantities in your question such as momentum, velocity and acceleration, सवाल शुरू करने से पहले you will mark the axes. जब भी आपके क्वेश्चन में सी आई एस फिजिक्स में वेक्टर क्वांटिटीज होंगी, बिफोर स्टार्टिंग द क्वेश्चन यू विल मार्क द एक्सेस. सर व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय एक्सेस? You will indicate whatever axis is positive, whatever axis is negative. इसका सिंपल अल्फाजों में मतलब ये है कि सवाल शुरू करने से पहले यू विल टेल द एग्जामिनर कि अपवर्ड डायरेक्शन पॉजिटिव है, डाउनवर्ड डायरेक्शन नेगेटिव है. यू कैन डू द रिवर्स एज वेल, बट आई प्रेफर दिस एक्सिस. आई रियली प्रेफर दिस एक्सिस. जब भी आपके सवालों में वेक्टर क्वांटिटीज होंगी बेटा, आपने क्या करना है? आपने एक्सेस मार्क करने. यू हैव टू टेल दैट द अपवर्ड एक्सिस इज पॉजिटिव, डाउनवर्ड एक्सिस इज नेगेटिव. ओके. Now you have to calculate the change in momentum. How will you calculate the change in momentum? Final momentum minus initial momentum. बेटा फाइनल मोमेंटम किस तरह निकालोगे? The mass of the ball is 0.25 kg. Okay. 0.25. What is the final velocity? Final velocity is acting upward 3.6. Okay. So upward vectors क्या हैं? Upward vectors are positive. So the final velocity is positive 3.6. Okay. So you can write it here. Minus initial momentum. Beta, what is the initial velocity? Initial velocity is velocity acting downwards 5.2. The downward velocity will be considered as negative 5.2 because it is acting downward. Negative 5.2. What does your answer for change in momentum comes out to be? Change in momentum is 2.2 kg ms minus 1. Now you have to calculate the average force on the ball. Force is equals to change in momentum over change in time. Change in momentum क्या है 2.2 divided by change in time क्या है 0.18. What does your average force comes out to be? Can any genius in the chat tell me the answer? Average force क्या आ जाती है बेटा? Average force comes out to be 12 Newton. Let's further move ahead. You have to determine the ratio of H2 over H1. A very interesting question. Please look at the board. बेटा सवाल को वापस शुरू से पढ़ेंगे. क्या लिखा हुआ है? A ball is dropped from rest from height h1 above the ground, fall vertically downwards. The ball collides with the ground. Okay. So basically, you have a ball that is initially at rest. Okay. You are making this ball fall to the ground like this. The ball has a velocity of what? जैसे ही बॉल ग्राउंड को हिट करती है बॉल की वेलोसिटी क्या होती है The ball has a velocity of 5.2. So you can say at the starting, the ball is at rest. At the ending, the ball has a velocity of 5.2 meters per second. Okay. This height is h1. Initial speed of the ball is 0. Can you realize if the initial speed of the ball is 0, the kinetic energy of the ball will be 0 initially. There will be only gravitational potential energy at the start. Beta, in the starting, you will only have gravitational potential energy. At the end, you will have kinetic energy only. क्योंकि यहाँ पे end पे क्या हो रहा है हाइट जीरो हो रही है gravitational potential energy at the end will be zero. So you can write here that the gravitational potential energy at the start is equals to kinetic energy at the end. What is the gravitational potential energy at the start? M G, the height, that is h1. What is the kinetic energy at the end? 1 upon 2 m. What will be here? We will write v square. V क्या है 5.2 का square. M cancel out. h1 किसके इक्वल आ जाएगा 5.2 का होल स्क्वायर डिवाइडेड बाय 2g is your h1. Okay. Now, furthermore, h2 कैसे निकालें सर? You will have to read the question further. You will have to read the question further. क्या लिखा हुआ है? The ball collides with the ground and bounces back vertically upwards, reaching a maximum height of h2. अच्छा जी क्या हो रहा है भाई बॉल जो है वो ग्राउंड पे हिट कर रही है लाइक दिस ओके has a velocity of 3.6 meters per second bounces back upward here it reaches a maximum height at the maximum height velocity will become 0 this height is h2 can you realize अगर ये एंडिंग पॉइंट पे वेलोसिटी जीरो हो गई है तो काइनेटिक एनर्जी एट द एंडिंग पॉइंट विल टर्न आउट टू बी जीरो at the end you will only have gravitational potential energy now similarly at the start your height is zero gravitational potential energy at the start will be zero you will only have kinetic energy at the start. So can I write it like this? Can I say kinetic energy at the start is equals to gravitational potential energy at the end? Yes. What is the kinetic energy at the start? 1 upon 2 m 3.6 का whole square. What is the gravitational potential energy at the end? mg h2 m cancel out. 3.6 का whole square divided by 2h2 or divided by 2g sorry divided by 2g is equals to h2. This is your second equation. फर्स्ट इक्वेशन भी आ गई, सेकंड इक्वेशन भी आ गई बेटा. अब क्या करना है? H2/H1 का रेशियो निकालना है. You have to calculate H2/H1. What is H2? 3.6 का स्क्वायर डिवाइडेड बाय 2g. What is H1? 5.2 का स्क्वायर डिवाइडेड बाय 2g. Cancel, cancel. H2/H1 comes out to be 0.48 as your answer. Simple, nothing complicated here. You can take a screenshot if you want of this working. This is how you will solve this question. Let's further move ahead. Define Young's modulus. अच्छा जी, Young's modulus define करना है. What is Young's modulus? Ratio of stress upon strain. या ratio of stress over strain. Simple. Let's further move ahead. An unstretched wire, okay, so you have an unstretched wire of length 0.81 meter is made of metal with Young's modulus this, okay. The wire obeys Hooke's law and has a constant cross-sectional area, okay. Figure 5.1 shows the force extension graph for the wire, okay, this is the force extension graph for the wire. Determine the cross-sectional area of the wire. You have to determine the cross-sectional area of the wire. How will you do that? Young's modulus is equals to FL over AE. Okay. F over E क्या है बेटा? F over E is your spring constant. KL over A. Simple. You have to determine area. How will you do that? Area is equals to KL over the Young's modulus. Perfect. Area is equals to KL over the Young's modulus. अब sir, how will I calculate K? How will I calculate the spring constant K? Very, very difficult. No, it's not difficult if you have this force versus extension graph. Do you remember gradient of force extension graph is equals to K? Let's say this is your first point 0, 0. Second point क्या हो जाएगा बेटा? Second point हो जाएगा 4, 500. Can you calculate the gradient here? Yes. y2 minus y1. 500 minus 0. x2 minus x1. 4 minus 0. Are there any units on the y-axis? या कोई prefixes लगे हुए हैं y-axis पे? नहीं. x-axis पे कोई prefixes लगे हुए हैं 10 के? Yes, 10 raised to the power of minus 3. What does your Young's modulus comes out to be? Let's calculate 500 divided by 4 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. This comes out to be 125,000 Newton per meter. This is your value of K. Okay. So you have the value of K 125,000. What is the value of unstretched length? Beta, unstretched length की क्या value? 0.81. Okay. 0.81. What is the value of Young's modulus? 95 gigapascal. 95 into 10 raised to the power of 9. Can you calculate the value of area? क्या आप area की value निकाल सकते हो बेटा? The area comes out to be 1.1 10 raised to the power of minus 6 meter square. Simple. Let's further move ahead. The extension of the wire is initially this. Let's say this is E1. Determine the work done to increase the extension to this value. Okay, so you have an initial extension, you have to increase the value of extension. बेटा कौन सा फॉर्मूला लगाएंगे? Which formula are we going to apply? हाँ जी, कौन सा फॉर्मूला अप्लाई होगा? We will apply the formula of additional strain energy. Additional strain energy का formula I have already taught you guys. Additional strain energy का क्या formula होता है बच्चों? हाँ जी, याद है किसी को? 1/2 into K into E2 square minus E1 square. 1/2 into what was the value of K? 125,000. Extension 2 क्या है? 3 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3 का whole square minus extension 1 क्या है? 2 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3 का whole square. What does your additional strain energy comes out to be? Additional strain energy comes out to be 0.31 joules. Now if there is someone watching, if there is someone listening, जैसे additional strain energy का formula नहीं याद रखना, can you still calculate the work done, sir? Yes. Beta, you are going from an extension of 2 to an extension of 3. Basically, you have to calculate what? You have to calculate the area under the graph from 2 till 3. आपने extension is equals to 2 से extension is equals to 3 तक का area under the graph calculate करना है. This comes out to be a trapezium. Simple. This thing. This is your answer. This entire area. I'm being very careful, like a grade 8 student who learns coloring for the first time. So, yeah, this is your entire area. Oh, okay. You can calculate the area of this trapezium as well. You will still get the same answer, but obviously you wouldn't believe me. Let's do that. What is the area of trapezium? Ka formula 1 upon 2 into sum of parallel sides into height. Okay, what are the parallel sides? This one. Oh, how bad can a person be at drawing? I have reached the peaks of badness in drawing. This is your first parallel side, that is at 250. Okay. What is your second parallel side? This one. Okay, I will have to zoom in for this one. This is your second parallel sides of 375. Okay. This is your second parallel side of 375. Okay. What is your height? Height is 1 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. This is your height. What will your answer come out to be? Let's calculate, bhai. Calculate kare answer ko. Yes. 1 into 10 raised to the power of minus 3. This comes out to be 0.31 joules again. Okay. So this can be your method number 2. And if you remember the formula of additional strain energy, that's well and good. That could be your method number 1. Let's further move ahead. Define electric potential difference across a component. What will you say? Electric potential difference is the work done per unit charge in moving a charge across an electrical component. बेटा पोटेंशियल डिफरेंस क्या होता है? वर्क डन पर यूनिट चार्ज इन मूविंग एन इलेक्ट्रिक चार्ज across an electrical component. Okay. A circuit contains 4 resistors, a battery of electromotive force 8 volts with negligible internal resistance. Okay. When the variable resistor has resistance R, the current in the circuit are 0.03 ampere, I1 and I2. Okay. As shown in figure 6.1. Okay. Determine the charge passing through the battery in a time of 4 minutes. You have to determine the charge passing through the battery in a time of 4 minutes. The current is 0.03 ampere. The time is this. You have to calculate the charge. Charge is equals to current into time. Current क्या है? 0.03 ampere. What is the time? 4 minutes. 4 into 60. This comes out to be what? Charge क्या आ जाएगा? 0.03 into 4 into 60. This comes out to be 7.2. 7.2 coulombs comes out to be your charge. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. आगे बढ़ते. Let's move ahead. You have to determine I1. आपने current I1 निकालना है. How will you do that? If you realize the battery has a voltage of 8, this parallel branch will have a voltage of 8 as well. What is the total resistance in this parallel branch? 430 plus 240. 430 plus 240. This comes out to be what? 670 ohms. This is your total resistance. The voltage in this branch is 8 volts. Can I calculate current I1? Yes, V is equals to IR. Voltage is 8. I total resistance 670. 8 divided by 670 is your current I1. Current I1 comes out to be what? 0.01. Yes, 0.012 ampere is your current. Simple. Now you have to calculate current I2. अब आपने current I2 निकालना है. How will you calculate current I2? Very, very easy. The total current is 0.03 ampere. I1 is what? 0.012 ampere. I2 क्या हो जाएगा? 0.03 minus 0.012. This comes out to be 0.018 ampere. I2 comes out to be what? 0.018 ampere. Now you have to determine the resistance R. You have to determine this resistance of the variable resistor R. How will you do that? Just sit back and relax. If you focus a bit, the total voltage that this yellow branch gets, beta, the total voltage that this yellow branch gets is 8 volts. Okay. Out of this total voltage, how much is consumed by this 210 ohm resistor? Out of this total 8 ohm voltage, how much is consumed by this 210 ohm resistor? Anji, V is equals to IR. करंट क्या है 0.018 एम्पियर. रेजिस्टेंस क्या है 210. कितना वोल्टेज कंज्यूम हो रहा है? हाँ जी, कितना वोल्टेज कंज्यूम हो रहा है? 3.78 volts is being consumed by this resistor. वेरिएबल रेजिस्टर के पास कितना वोल्टेज बचेगा? 8 minus 3.78. This comes out to be what? 8 minus answer. This comes out to be 4.22 volts. The voltage across the variable resistor is 4.22 volts. The current across the variable resistor is 0.018 ampere. Can you calculate the resistance? Yes, बिल्कुल. Resistance is equals to voltage over current. Voltage की value क्या आ रही है? 4.22 divided by current 0.018. The resistance comes out to be what? Can any genius in the chat tell me the answer? Resistance comes out to be 230 ohms. Let's further move ahead. Okay. The variable resistor in B is fitted with a scale so that its resistance can be accurately determined. Okay. The resistance of the resistor 240 ohm is now replaced by a new resistor X of unknown resistance. A galvanometer is connected as shown in figure 6.2. ठीक है बेटा, यहाँ पे 240 ओम रेजिस्टर की जगह आपने एक न्यू रेजिस्टर लगा दिया है X. ओके. With reference to the ratio of resistances, explain how this circuit can be used to determine the resistance of X. बेटा, हमने रेशियो ऑफ रेजिस्टेंसेस को यूज करके बताना है हाउ कैन दिस सर्किट बी यूज्ड टू डिटरमाइन व्हाट? टू डिटरमाइन द रेजिस्टेंस ऑफ X. First of all, do you realize that when the galvanometer will read 0, when there will be a null deflection, जब भी galvanometer 0 read करेगा null deflection होगी. Let's say this is resistance A, let's say this is resistance B, let's say this is resistance C, let's say this is resistance D. A over B will be equal to C over D when the galvanometer reads 0. जब भी गैल्वेनोमीटर पे 0 की रीडिंग आएगी, नल डिफ्लेक्शन आएगी, द रेशियो ऑफ रेजिस्टेंसेस ऑन द लेफ्ट हैंड साइड विल बी इक्वल टू द रेशियो ऑफ रेजिस्टेंसेस ऑन द राइट हैंड साइड. So you can write this answer. You can say vary the resistance of variable resistor until the galvanometer reads 0. At this point, at this point. The ratio of resistances on left hand side is equal to the ratio of resistances on right hand side. Simple as that, nothing complicated here. Let's further move ahead. Okay. State what is meant by a fundamental particle जी. Fundamental particle का क्या मतलब होता है जी? हाँ जी, कौन बताएगा? State what is meant by a fundamental particle. A particle that cannot be divided into smaller particles. A particle that cannot be divided. That cannot be divided into smaller particles. Okay. Let's further move ahead. अब आगे आ जाओ. A nucleus has 14 nucleons and p protons. The ratio of charge to mass for nucleus X is this. Okay, what is the charge to mass ratio? The total charge of the nucleus divided by total mass is equals to 4.1 into 10 raised to the power of 7. The nucleus has 14 nucleons. What will be the total mass? Q divided by 14 into 1.66 10 raised to the power of minus 27 is equals to 4.1 into 10 raised to the power of 7. Can you calculate the charge here? Yes, charge is equals to 4.1 into 10 raised to the power of 7 into 14 into 1.66 10 raised to the power of minus 27. What does your total charge comes out to be? Let's calculate 4.1 into 10 raised to the power of 7 into 4 into 1.66 into 10 raised to the power of minus 27. This comes out to be 9.53 10 raised to the power of minus 19. This is the total charge on P. This is the total charge on the nucleus. Now, if one proton has a charge of 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19 coulomb, 9.53 10 raised to the power of minus 19 coulombs, कितने protons के equal होंगे? Place a x here. Let's calculate this answer. 1.6 into 10 raised to the power of minus 19. This comes out to be 6 protons. Simple. Nucleus X undergoes beta negative decay to form nucleus Z. Okay, what were the number of protons of nucleus X? 6. If you are going beta negative decay, this will become 7. There is a beta particle as well here. And you have an anti-neutrino here. Simple. A sample of radioactive substance emits particles that are positively charged and have a continuous range of kinetic energy. Okay. State and explain whether the nuclei in the sample are undergoing alpha decay, beta positive decay, or beta negative decay. First of all, if you have a continuous range of kinetic energies, it cannot be alpha particles. You can write this. If the particles have a continuous range of kinetic energies, they cannot be alpha particles. So this gets eliminated. Only beta positive and beta negative decay is left. Can you realize the particles are positively charged? Beta positive particles are positively charged. So you will write since the particles are positively charged, it's a beta positive decay. Simple. This marks the end of paper 2 to May June 2025. If you have any other questions, you can ask in the chat. and I would be glad to answer.